try to think of something different. Oh, my God, keep me from going lunatic. Bones, moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war.
Hey everyone, this is the Twins with the Grand Old Time Cast, and this is our video essay on Officer Candidate School Phase 2, or as I like to call it, the long slog. So, we wrapped up with Phase 1 in late June, so we were able to make it home by the 4th of July. We had actually a really long gap in between our Phase 1 to our first Phase 2 drill, which was in late July.
That's right.
So, with that being said, Phase 2, or at least first drill of Phase 2, is what I like to call the wake-up call. So, you make it through Phase 1, and Phase 1 is, it's chaos the whole time. It's nothing but yelling. It's nothing but you're wrong. It's nothing but constantly being out. Week 1 is just tree of knowledge and doing push-ups and getting yelled at and smoked in the 100-degree heat of Kansas. And the second week is nothing but being out in the field and doing land nav for 4 or 5 days straight.
Yep.
So you're just like, I did it. I made it. You're good. We did it. We got through the hardest part, which is technically true, but then you show up for Phase 2 first drill, and it is rough. So I describe it as the opening scene of Band of Brothers when, you get the opening scene where you first see Sobel.
You people are at the position of attention. Private Picante, have you been blousing your trousers over your boots like a paratrooper?
No, sir.
That explain the creases at the bottom.
No excuse, sir.
When did you sew on these chevrons, Sergeant Lipton?
Yesterday, sir.
Long enough to notice this. Revoked.
Sir.
Rust on the butt plate hinge spring, Private. Bullshit. Revoked.
That's how it was. So we show up for Phase 2 when we get there about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we get there, we get our rooms. Our rooms are like a hotel. We call it the billets or billeting, and we get there, and we're all on like the first floor. We're all roomed together in this hallway, which is convenient, but it changed every drill weekend too. So we were never consistently in the same spot. And sometimes we drilled at different places. Sometimes we were at Gruber, and sometimes we were at what was that place called? Right near outside of Tinker. What we call that place? Glenwood.
Glenwood, yep.
So we went to several drilling locations, but for the most part, we were at the OKC RTI, and it was the building. And again, the OKC RTI is the Regional Training Institute, where the OCS program is located for the state program. And it was the wake-up call again. So we get there, and we get our room set up, and we have all our equipment, and then we just kind of wait around for first formation, and we don't even know when or where first formation. We know first formation is supposed to happen somewhere outside of the building hotel. But, this is our first time being there, so again, this is why I call it the wake-up call. But what's interesting is, too, so we lost 2 candidates in Phase 1.
Yeah. We lost 1 to land nav.
And we lost 1 to the 6 Mile Ruck. He had, kidney failure or something like that.
He had a medical emergency, and we lost 2 to that. And it's just funny because the critical events at Phase 1 are the 6 Mile Ruck and land nav. And
as well as your tests.
Yeah, there's like 3 tests, but I can't even remember what they are now. All I know is I did incredibly average on them because it was literally you got the information like that morning, and you were testing on
later
it by
that
afternoon.
You were testing it by the evening, yeah. So that is true. So anyway, so we lost 2 at Phase 1, and we picked up 4 when we get back from Phase 1 and Phase 2. So one of them was a dropout of they're all technically dropouts of North Dakota, right?
Yeah.
But one was a year ago, and he was actually in our pre-OCS program for a while, and that was Ivy, and he tore his ACL in Phase 1 a year ago, and he was about to time out of the OCS program, so thank goodness he was able to get in our class with us and go. And Ivy's awesome. I love hanging out with Ivy. You saw Ivy. He was the one that was going, oh my God, during our last video.
They're like, all right, double time. And I was like, I can do double time in full gear. And then it was like we're running and then running faster, and I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, but it was a meniscus tearing.
That's right.
An
meniscus. Yes, sir. I knew it was in that vein, so... But yeah, he injured himself, and he was in the pre-OCS program, and he stuck it out. I mean, like, a lot of people won't. Like, I mean, you get injured, like, I'm done. I'm not going to go through this monotony again. I'll just go back to my unit. But he stuck it out and is, on track to becoming an officer as we talk right now. So we picked up Ivy, and we picked up 3 others, and some of them stuck it out, some of them didn't. And that's just kind of the way it is. And if you saw our video last, the picture we had a picture of everyone. You can actually pull it up, and it's kind of misleading because we put X's over the people that didn't make it, but that was the X's over the people who didn't make it with us all the way through to the end. Not all those guys got knocked out in Phase 1. So
That's right.
A lot of them got knocked out here in Phase 2. This is where we lost the majority of people, was Phase 2. And Phase 2 wasn't difficult by any stretch of the mind. We get to the first drill. We have to get all of our rooms. And again, and with these new people coming in, a lot of them actually didn't do anything with this first drill. They weren't even at the first drill, technically. They showed up at the next drill. Mm-hmm. So it was just kind of us core group at the very beginning, and then these other people just were kind of littered in because some of their they were kind of in question, their status of whether or not they could be moved forward in the program. So there's always kind of limbo and gray areas when it comes to paperwork, when it comes to people getting knocked out of a different phase or a different program and then coming into a different program. So there's some interesting stuff to be said about that. But with that being said, first drill, we're kind of waiting around at first formation. And I was appointed, so after we ended Phase 1, I was appointed PSG, and our buddy Egger was appointed PL. So it's a crapshoot being leadership any point in time, but especially at Phase 2 because you have no clue what to expect at Phase 2. We don't have a schedule. We don't have anything. We were just told to report at the building at this time, and they just come out, and they're just once we see the black hats coming there, you have to. It's same rules as Phase 1. You call it from the minute you see them, and you are under rules, and they're on you. They're on you, and it sucked for me because we had to get our rooms. So our first task was to get our rooms identical. Now, look, getting your barracks identical is difficult enough because, you have to have lockers and beds have to be made exactly the same way, and you're in the same room. We all have different rooms. Like, it's one candidate per room, so it's nice because you have privacy, but we have to, get all 8 of your rooms perfectly in order. Like, everything has to be identical. So we're like, okay, so we're just accounting for our stuff. Our stuff has to be in order. The rooms have...
they're different. Each room is slightly different in some way.
But they all have similar things. But, it's like we have fridges in our room. We have telephones in our room. We have televisions in our room. We have phones, like the pickup phones, and clocks. We have toilet paper and towels provided for us in our rooms. Mm-hmm. And then we have our own personal stuff. So, myself and the PL were like, okay, all we need to do is just get our personal effects organized. We didn't care about anything in the room.
Yeah.
Well, we were wrong. We made an assumption and we were wrong. And they were like, nope, the fridges are different. The telephones are in different places. So they were like, we want everything in order. So
Pornography, contraband. Non-regulation clothing, contraband. This man had 200 prophylactic kits in his footlocker. How in the name of God was he going to have the strength to fight the war?
They take us outside and smoke us really bad out front, like they had us low crawling across the hot parking lot.
That you are hearing are live rounds. You will get the fear out of you. Keep moving. If you pick your head up, you will get fucked up. Find out if we have this bitch in you. You guys crawl like old people fuck.
And then they take us back in. We have to get our rooms organized again. And they go, now get everything identical. And we're just like, okay, how? And they're like, how long do you need? How long do you need? And we're like, an hour. And they go, nope. It's like you get 10 minutes, So, and they're just giving you times. And you ask for what you can get, but then, they're going to tell you what you have. Mm-hmm. And that's just the way it is. So we keep asking for more time, and we keep trying to organize everyone's room, and it's not going to work. It's just chaos. 10 minutes to get all 8 candidates' rooms organized in perfect order. Not going to happen. Like I said, down to where the toilet paper goes, and the inches between the towels being measured. Like we were like, use your thumbs and get the towels perfectly in the middle of the thing by using your thumbs like this. And no matter what we did, it was not. They just didn't look right, and that's it. It's just controlled chaos. It's our wake up call. Phase 2. So, and then don't be like me. I'm a smart aleck. So when we were out there low crawling in the grass to the concrete crossing, I remember one of the black hat sergeants was like, "Hey, what did you learn while you were out there crawling around? What did you learn? And I know what the answer he wanted me to say was. It was, attention to detail, but to me, the attention to detail that I got was, the grass was freshly mowed, Sergeant, and of course that was not the right answer. And I got lit up for that. So that, you could just see it go all over his face. Like he was angry. So that, don't be like me, don't be a smart aleck, but I mean, that's just who I am. That's just how I ease the tension. Not a smart move on my part, but I couldn't help it. It just sprung out. Yeah. So again, we try to do our best, but again, we get smoked again. And, I'm holding basically a push-up position while they're inspecting everybody's room. And they go, not good enough, it's different, nothing looks right. So that was a long wake-up call to the first drill. And then, they're explaining to me to what my position is, but they're explaining it to me by yelling. So they're going, what's your job, PSG? And I'm like, I don't know.
How should I know? I'm retarded.
Well, I'm not sure. And they're like, beans and bullets, PSG. And I'm just like, okay, so you got to make sure your platoon's fed. You got to make sure you have ammo. You got to make sure everybody has their weapons. And the first drill, I actually don't think we had weapons at all. First drill, I don't remember.
I don't recall either. I think we might have.
I say weapons. They were rubber duckies for the vast majority of Phase 2. So we carried rubber duckies with us, which are the rubber dummy rifles. Mm-hmm. But I don't remember a whole lot about first drill. I don't think we had rifles with us that first drill, but we might have.
It's been so long since then, it's hard to remember.
It has, yeah. So again, I have to march us across the street and go to classroom for basically our first in-brief, our Warno/mission. So we go in, and
the company commander comes
in, gives us the brief, like, welcome to OCS, it's the expectations. And again, it's a self-taught program. So, you guys will be in charge of basically your own PT. You'll be in charge of your own. We'll teach you the curriculum and stuff you have to know, but it's your job to learn it, and it's your job to organize it and make sure you study and retain all the information and pass the tests.
And this is the biggest difference between expedited and
federal,
traditional, or accelerated and traditional.
Yeah, accelerated, federal, and traditional. It's all they're all basically the same.
Yeah, they're all regimented out. Like I said, accelerated and federal, your days from wake up to lights out are all regimented. They've got that all planned out for you already. You just have to make the hit times. Whereas at traditional state OCS, we're not there. We're not at the base or whatever all the time. We go home for the rest of the month.
Yeah, we go home. We go to work. We go spend time with our families and friends. We have our jobs outside. So we have our own lives. It's like if you're at federal or you're at accelerated, that's your life. You're there. You're in the environment. You never leave.
Yeah.
Us, we go home and we do our regular life on top of getting prepped for the next drill.
Which that's the hardest part of traditional is keeping yourself accountable, especially when it comes to the PT staying physically active.
Yes. PT is by far the number one thing that you have to keep on top of at Phase 2. Like, I heard them say that multiple times. I'm like, come on, it's not that big a deal. But it is, because you will get distracted by the things that happen in life. I mean, look, we all have life, but if you're already disciplined and you have if you have things going on in life and you're like, okay, I wake up at 5 every day and do this anyway, so it's not a big deal. Good. Keep that mentality. But there were some times where I'm like that too, but then I would be like, I would get so overwhelmed by what had to be accomplished before drill. I'd skip the PT and submit my memos or make sure that we were all prepped and we were all on the same page for what need to be studied for the next test.
Yeah, or in what happened towards the winter time is like we started getting hit with a bunch of ice storms just out of nowhere, and we couldn't go out and run. And as we and a bunch of other people in their class learned, is running on a treadmill or on an elliptical is not the same as beating feet on pavement.
No, it's not. Not at all. So this PT during Phase 2 is the most important thing, on top of staying on top of your studying. But again, so the initial warno that we get while we're getting in-briefed by the cadre and the CO is it's a self-taught program. You will be in charge of yourselves, and we will be here to monitor you. So that's basically how it went. So they gave us the things that we knew we had to pass. So you have all your tests. And like the first half of Phase 2 is all of your tests. And then the second half is getting prepped for op wards and troop leading procedures. So that's how that works. So first half is tests and 12-mile ruck prep and graduation run prep. And then the second half is TLPs and then the actual 12-mile ruck and the actual graduation run. So that's kind of how it's going to look. Now, again, your mission critical things that you have to do in OCS Phase 2 is you have to pass all your tests, and the hardest test you will have is the history test.
Mm-hmm. That's where we lost The rest.
We lost 3 people to the history test, and some of them just weren't trying because I don't think they wanted to be a part of the program anyway. But other 2 were doing their darndest to get past this test, and it's a lot of information. And I would say it's of all the things that make the least amount of sense in OCS, it's basically 2 semesters of collegiate level history crammed into basically 2 days.
Yeah.
So we had to
It's a
study
lot.
outside. Now, our cadre gave us very good resources to study for this test outside. A really good friend of mine from basic training who's going through the Officer Candidate School program in Maryland, I keep track with him, and I was like, hey, how things going? He goes, dude, I think this history test is going to kill me. So I forwarded him the study material that our cadre gave us, and he was like, he passed. Flying colors, and I did as well, and so did most of the guys. I mean, I got 100 on the test, so that's how good the study material was for us.
I only missed 1.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, sometimes it pays to be a winner, you know.
Oh, you're scoring all.
Not as high as you, that's for
Exactly.
sure. But yeah, so that is the only test that didn't make a lot of sense because it was so dense. Like, so it was a paragraph question, and then the 4 answers were paragraph long answers, and you had to basically hone in on what the dates were or the wording to, like, because some of them were very similar.
And the other part is some of the statements in them were both true, but it was your objective to choose the most true or the most factual one.
Again, the history exam was the one that I would say is the least
candidate
fair.
killer.
Yeah, the candidate killer test. That's what got knocked out 3 more candidates from our class. So, with that being said, the history exams is the toughest one. The other ones you should be able to pass with just a day or 2 of study. But that one, no, you're going to need a more outside time to study for that one. Now, so your tests, but you also have to prep for your 9-mile ruck. So they're going to, you want to make sure that you do like con ops and things like that for the 9-mile. You'll want to prep for and the 9-mile is prep for your 12-mile. And then you have to prep for your staff ride and your dine-in. So, and they want that stuff complete by the next drill. And like when I say complete, like I don't mean kind of ready, we got most of the information. I mean done. You have a final product.
Yeah.
100% ready to go and to give them by next drill, because that is what we got chewed out for.
I was in leadership during this, and yeah, I got hammed up on it. I even told everybody, guys, this has to be done completely. And everyone's like, just got that idea of, we just need to have it like 90 to 80% done.
Yeah, no,
like,
they wanted it 100% done.
It has to be 100% ready to go, as though if we were to leave tomorrow, this was it.
Yeah.
And fortunately for me, my staff ride was really good, but the dine-in was
not.
awful.
Yeah,
So-
and again, it's a lot. Like those first couple of drills are just there to basically get you hammed up and realize how quickly you have to put together. And that's what it is. Like when you're an officer, you have to put stuff together as quickly as possible, and so you put your team and your platoon up for success. So that's why it's so difficult. And again, it's a lot to do that first couple months, but if you can get it all sorted out, like literally just take one weekend, sacrifice that weekend, and get everything completed. And I know we are busy with life and family, but it's got to get done. And you said you split the load between the class.
Yeah.
And again, there's a lot, and you will figure out who your Blue Falcons are real quick amongst your class as well. Like Phase 1, it's hard. You have to be trying to be a Blue Falcon in Phase 1. Phase 2, whenever you get into the monotony of life and the everyday drill, that's where you find who your Blue Falcons are, because that's where people let you down. Like, they let you down outside of the drill, not during drill. Like, if you want to be a normal soldier, be a normal soldier and just show up to drill and do that. But when you're an officer, your work is done outside of drill. Your prep, your planning. So, again, you'll be assigned your briefs, your cubs, you'll be assigned to a cub. And then you'll also be assigned to an operational environment. Our operational environment was Russia, because obviously the Russian-Ukrainian war. So we had to, each of us was assigned something to do for Russia. So mine was infrastructure. What was yours?
Mine was, oh man, I have a hard time. Oh, information. Mine was information.
So they're vague, and you basically just put together a slideshow, and you just kind of, I don't know. I went to military websites and outside of military websites and just gathered as much information as I could about Russia from an infrastructural perspective, and then you brief that to your class. And I actually never got to do it because it was just something that never, like, we were just so busy, and we were in our Phase 2, we were kind of in a transitory phase where They were transitioning cadre out. Not all the cadre that we started with were there with us at the end because they went to other things, and then we had new cadre come in and take over. So it was kind of chaotic while we were in. So hopefully the next class doesn't suffer the kind of chaos that we had.
And two, you also brief your OE to the commander, and our commander would always be tied up doing something else. So you can't brief the commander if the commander is not there.
Yes, yeah. So with that being said, that's basically how the briefs went, and then we stay there. You stay there so until late in the evening, and then they have to march everybody back to the billets. And of course, I don't do a very good job at that.
Practiced all week. No way they messed this up.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
Get yelled at a little bit longer before we get released to go to bed for the night, and then you have fire guard.
I should get some sleep.
Hey, bro. It's your turn for fire guard.
You'll find out who Blue Falcons are by people who either sleep in or don't want to wake up for their fire guards time slots, or they'll wake up the wrong people because they're not paying attention. So, again, there's a lot going on, but, you just have to work through it, work with your class, and try to survive. So
100%.
And again, the first couple drills will be rough, but, after you kind of get used to the monotony of it all, it's not too bad.
Oh, yeah. You get used to it. You'd be intrigued how fast you get right back into your drill mindset once you get to your once you get into that week.
Absolutely.
But it's a lot of work, and we broke up teams into the dine-in and the staff ride groups, and everybody got assigned some sort of a task from there. Like I would assign, like we were supposed to have 3 COAs or course of actions for the staff ride, and I think our original one was Normandy, France for D-Day. Then
Gettysburg.
Then we had not Gettysburg.
Vicksburg.
It was Vicksburg. And then we had a backup one in
Oklahoma.
the Oklahoma area because just in case all your money gets completely taken away, we're at least going to bus you to like some museum,
Honey
or
Springs or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it kind of goes. So we get back to the evening, we get back to the billets, we get released, and then I stay up basically for the most of the night trying to memorize the warm-up drills and the cool-down drills for PT the next day, so I don't look like a fool doing the PT in the morning. So I didn't get a whole lot of sleep, but I did eventually get to sleep. And then, again, wake up 0500, but we always get up a little bit earlier than that, so maybe like 0450, just to make sure everybody's up and moving around. And then we're out to first formation by 0500, and then we are marching across the street to the PT area, and you're starting PT no later than 0515. Again, hit times are super important. Even phase 1. You don't want to be late for your hit times. So make your hit times. Like, that's the most important thing you can do. It doesn't matter if you're not 100% ready to go. You just want to make those hit times and do your best to get to them, because you'll get hammed up for that real bad. Now, my first PT session was actually really good. They liked it. They liked the session. They liked the workout. And it was basically a warm-up drill, and then I did sprint intervals, 30 seconds sprinting, a minute of walking, and then I had a whistle, and the whistle would blow, and I'd say go, and that would be the go, and then 2 whistles would be stop, and we just walk. So did that, and they liked that PT group. They liked the cool down. And then it was the next day that got me hammed up, because I tried to do like just a long cool down jog, and they were not having. They're like, "You ran yesterday, you don't get to run today." Again, the first day was good. The second day, not so much. So I actually had a fellow candidate, because I when they throw your plan under the bus, I didn't have a pace plan, but I didn't even know what a pace plan was at this point in time because it's first drill. So I didn't really have a backup plan. So another candidate who knew the push-up drill variant was like, "Hey, I know a push-up drill we can do." So I said, I appointed him my assistant PSG, and he conducted a push-up drill. And again, so don't be a Blue Falcon if somebody's struggling. Volunteer help or information that can assist them in their plight, essentially. So volunteer help when you can and if you can and if it's appropriate to do so. And like I said, that's the thing too. Since you're in a training environment, you never know when it's appropriate to do so. But, don't just stand there, volunteer to help, be useful, make yourself useful. They said, if you're not in leadership, make yourself useful to leadership. Because that is how you survive. You're helping each other. You're a class.
Yeah, help your battle buddies out. That really is a thing.
Yeah, and when you're leadership, you'll get like in phase 1, you'll have no's and no goes. Like in phase 1, all of us got no goes, but in this one, in phase 2, you have to get 2 goes.
1 go.
You have to get 1 go when you're leadership. So that's important. Make sure you help your leadership or whoever it is in leadership get their go.
Yeah.
Be that guy. Don't be a Blue Falcon. Don't screw them over and just be like, I don't know, I'm not in leadership.
Yeah, and some of your 5 criticals will be tasks like regarding like your platoon or your class.
Yeah.
Like one of mine was that I got hammed up on was a test. Like I said, some of the people failed I'm pretty sure it was the history test actually too. And I got gigged for that in my leadership. They go, did you come up with like a study group or a study session thing? And I was like, well, I did tell people to study outside of drill. I sent them like papers and stuff like that to study with, but they go, but did you study with them? Because there's always something more that you can do is like the point that they are getting over. There's always something more you should have studied with them personally. You should have had another like
meetup,
Google meetup or something to help them out more.
Okay. So he's correct there. So after that PT session, so let me kind of get you into the monotony of a day. So your PT session is what you start the day with. So you show up on the Friday for us. Like I said, now this new group, I think they're doing 3 drills a day. So actually they'll show up on Thursday at 3. But you'll show up whatever day they tell you to. So we always had to show up Friday at 3. We get our building rooms, and then we would get our rooms organized and whatnot to the standard. And then we would have first formation at 5:05, or not 05. It would be it's 1700 was when you would have your first formation, and that's how it go every drill weekend from there on out. So first formation, you arrive at 3. You had first formation at 5 p.m. or 1700, and then you go to your class, do your in-brief for there, and then you finish your day at 9. March back across the street. Have your fire guard roster going, and then you wake up at 05, get out there, first formation, then you go to PT at 0:15, PT for an hour, go back, change, come to class, or you march back across the street, go to your classroom setting. You have to send a recon unit in to go knock and be like, hey, is our instructor is ready to receive students? And they'll say yes, and then you go back out. And then you'll do what you also, so you'll have your weapons as well at some point. I don't know if we have them first drill, but you'll have your weapons. You have to do barrel clearing procedures before you go into any building. So you have to go and, you put your weapon in the barrel. You'd be like, weapon on safe, no mag, drop mag, pull, observe, release. Do that. So you're always doing barrel clearing procedures when you go in and out of buildings. And then you go in, you take class, you go in there, you have classroom instruction, and then eventually you'll have a tack break. And typically what happens on a tack break is battle drills. So you do battle drill 1 alpha, or you'll do bunker. You'll bust a bunker, or
which that's the most fun part of your day. Everything else, then you're like just fighting.
Yes,
you're
but
fighting the dream demons.
It's not just battle drills, though. They will smoke you a little bit too. They will make you sweat again because they're trying to wake you up to go back into the classroom. And we got lucky. We actually were able to submit coffee memos, and we got to drink coffee while we were there. So I don't know if you saw that.
That's another thing we haven't talked about is like learn to do memo requests.
Yeah, one of the most important and underrated things you'll do as an officer is write memos. So you have to request everything. So again, let me I'll finish the monotony of the days, but you'll go in and you'll do, so you'll have a tack break, and then you'll have breakfast, and you'll go back to class, and you'll do the barrel clearing procedures every time you go out. You'll have another tack break, you'll have lunch, and then you'll go back to class, then you'll have another tack break, and then you'll stay in class until about 9 p.m., then you'll go back, and then you'll do barrel clearing procedures. You go into the room, then you have your fire guard. And that's what a day will look like until Sunday, and Sunday you typically get released around 5 or 6 p.m. So that's what a typical weekend will look like for you. And like I said, if you're doing a 3-day weekend, it's going to look like that, except you have an extended day. So keep that in mind as you proceed through your candidateship. But yeah, so the kind of unsung stuff they don't tell you about is if you want to succeed at OCS, especially when you are in leadership, is everything you do to make the drill be successful or run smoothly is done outside of drill. You're an officer. You're not enlisted anymore. You don't just show up and do the work. You have to plan to have a successful drill weekend outside of drill. And that's how you know it will run smoothly. So they'll give you a schedule. They'll give you your 5 critical missions or 5 critical events.
Yep.
And you have to execute on them. So you'll want to make sure everybody has a schedule so they'll know what the drill weekend will look like. You'll want to make sure they're studying for the tests. You'll want to make sure that they are prepped, and you'll assign everybody a job. Like we had to have road guards assigned. We had to have recon units assigned. We had to have
a water
detail assigned. And you have to make sure everybody's doing those jobs. That is your job as leadership, to make sure those jobs are being done. And like I said, as someone who's not in leadership, it's your job to execute those jobs and not complain about the job that you're given.
Yeah.
So don't be a Blue Falcon. And this is where, again, you will find out who is a Blue Falcon in your class, because it's outside of drill that you find out who people are. So, again, you need to be doing these things outside drill. You need to have it. So we had a Google Meetup every Monday. And sometimes I would have people meet multiple times, like I said, because I got, every time I had a drill, it was like a 2-week interval or a week interval in between drill. So I had people meet multiple times just to make sure that we were all on the same page. Be like, hey, by the way, drill is coming up. So make sure that you're planning and executing, and make sure everybody's on the same page before you arrive to drill, because if everybody knows exactly what they're doing before they get there, it's going to go way smoother.
Yeah. And then always make sure that you're confirming everybody's brought all their equipment, because that's always a thing that ends up happening.
Chad and I were always paranoid, so we always brought an extra pair of absolutely everything. We'd always bring a spare pair of tennis shoes, a spare pair of boots, a spare pair of something to give to somebody who didn't have it. So sometimes people didn't show up with shoes. We'd be like, oh, hey, I got a spare pair of tennis shoes. They might be a little small or a little big, but at least you're wearing tennis shoes to PT.
Mm-hmm.
So always be somebody who's over-prepared instead of under-prepared. But yeah, that's where you find out how people who will be successful leaders. I mean, so Chad, why don't you actually have a better story about this, because you actually had a rough time as leadership during one of your leadership times. So give a little kind of summary of what happened to you.
Yes, on my leadership as I was PSG, and I had a PL, young PL, college student, and nothing wrong with being a college student, but he kind of left me hanging when it came to decision making. So when I'm like, hey, you submitting your memos? Nothing. He just wouldn't respond to his text messages or anything. Now, at one point, we found out that his phone had gotten terminated. Phone service was canceled or something. But, yeah, well, stuff like that, just like you've got to get in contact. You have to maintain contact and communication with people, especially throughout drill. So I'm basically become my job. I'm doing my job and the PL's job at this point. And, so basically it's all on me at that point. And, he would get in contact every once in a while, but it just felt like for the longest time it was just me. And that's how, you really kind of screw over your battle buddies, is just completely dropping the ball and then leaving them in the dust to pick up all the pieces of everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's a life lesson right there, too. I mean, if you have whenever we got punished at phase 1, they'd say so if I messed up something, they wouldn't punish me. They'd punish the platoon, or the company. So whenever I'm XO and they're punishing people, they go, when leaders fail, down. That's when they say, when leaders fail, soldiers suffer. When leaders fail,
when leadership fails,
soldiers suffer. So that's what happens. When leaders fail, soldiers suffer. So him as the acting PSG, whenever the PL didn't communicate with him, didn't show up to meetings. So again, we had Google meetings every Monday. He didn't show up. So he's having to submit all the memos as the PSG. He's having to submit and keep everybody accountable before that drill weekend. So whenever we show up, we go, I haven't heard a thing from the PL when we have drill. And they're like, well, what are we going to do? It's like, well, he already had a plan in motion. And again, if you leave your buddies hanging, somebody else is going to have to step up. And again, that's what happens a lot in the military too, and not just in the military, in life in general. A lot of times, good subordinates will prop up bad leaders.
Yeah.
And that will happen in your career.
I mean, how many people have been in a group assignment where someone didn't do anything, but they are still there to sign their name at the end of the project?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect example. And it's a class project, a kid that never was there, never showed up, never did anything, but he still got an A because everyone else did the work. That's a lot like what happens whenever you Blue Falcon people in the OCS environment. So just keep that in mind as you go forward. You're going to find out, you won't find out who the Blue Falcon is when you're at drill because everybody's there. But you'll find out who the Blue Falcon is outside of drill because that's when you need them. Like, you need them to be there when it matters. You need to have them to be there to help you make the plan, to execute the plan. When you show up and you're there, it's like, well, yeah, we're all here doing it now, but you were supposed to have an idea of what we're supposed to be doing before drill started.
Yeah.
So again, that's where you separate the Blue Falcons from the rest of the group. Like, I mean, you can show up and perform and be the best at absolutely everything when you get there, but if you're leaving people out hanging before the drill starts, like, that's when it matters. Mm-hmm. The plan before is what matters.
And I guess we'll probably just put up in the captions what a Blue Falcon actually
I think it's just a military thing. If people really want to find out, it's not super hard.
Yeah.
To figure out what it means. But yeah, you'll find out who the people's real colors throughout the drill month, not the actual drill. So that's the truth. So I guess I don't really have much else to say on that particular matter, but yeah, don't be that guy. And again, when we did the staff ride stuff, it's like, hey, I need you to do this particular thing for a staff ride, and it's like somebody responds, I'm just too busy. It's like, look, life happens. We're all busy people, but it's like somebody else is suffering because you can't step up to the plate.
Yes.
And like I said, sometimes you have to step up because people are going through some really bad stuff.
Yes.
But when people are consistently going through really bad stuff all the time, you will eventually lose whatever grace they had for you. It's like you can only be living in crisis for so long before people stop caring about your crisis.
Your sympathy for someone will only extend to a certain amount. Then you're just going to go, okay, this is starting to be annoying or on purpose. One of the two.
It's like a girl who has a bum boyfriend. It's like, she's only going to support you for so long until she's like, I need to find someone who's going to take care of me, not the other way around.
Exactly.
So it's the same way in the Army too, man. Don't be the guy that's leaving people out in the wind because you just had too much going on in your life. It's like, you signed up, you made a commitment, step up to the plate. Commit. So it's rough, but I understand. Life happens, but you got to step up and complete the mission because you signed up to do it. Now, with that being said, is there anything else that we can talk about other than just as far as execution goes for drill weekends go?
So it's just passing your tests and doing the 9-mile ruck march, your 12-mile ruck march, and then your 4-mile graduation run, which, again, PT is paramount throughout your drill. I mean, not while you're at drill, like throughout the rest of the year while you're not at drill, because we had like half of our class almost fail the 4-mile run because we weren't running enough. Now, granted, we all passed our diagnostic run, like with flying colors. But
then
when
the snowstorm started hitting and people weren't running outside, and they were just like, well, I'll just treadmill it up or go on the bike. Not good enough. You actually have to beat feet on concrete and pavement.
Winter rolled around and everyone got lazy. And, it's not that they weren't being lazy. Like I said, everyone was saying, I'm hitting the elliptical, I'm hitting the treadmill. And me and Corey here knew that we had to not just do that because we knew that the treadmill does and the ellipticals do half the work for you. Like, it feels completely different running on concrete and on grass than it does running on a treadmill because it's not the same.
It's not. It's not. So make sure you're doing the right things. And like I said, weather doesn't make a difference. I mean, when you were at basic training, if it was raining outside, they say, oh, we're not going outside. That's like, no, you were outside training the rain and the cold. Like, it doesn't matter.
That's 100% right.
So, the weather doesn't change the fact that you still have to perform and execute. So make it happen,
So that's really the things that you have to remember is 9-mile, 12-mile, your exams, and the hardest one will be your history exam, and then your 4-mile graduation run, and then the 2 fun events, which they're fun. I don't think they're mission critical, as in you have to do them to pass. But the fun events that you get to do is your
Staff ride
dine-in and your staff ride.
Staff ride and the dine-in,
Yep.
correct.
And those ones are more fun, I would say.
But they're a lot of work.
They are a lot of work, and we had to we had to pay for our dine-in. We remember you will have to throw in your own money to do all this.
Either
stuff.
do fundraisers or have a raffle, something. But if you don't, which we didn't do a very good job of, you have to fund it yourself, and that's what we did. So, and you have to invite your senior leadership, everybody involved with the program, and people you just want to be there. But it's a lot of fun too. It's a lot of fun, and you get to just kind of have a more informal time with cadre and get to know them as people, which was really cool. But with that being said, I'll go you this. I'll end it on a more serious note. In phase 2, I nearly did get removed from the program. I almost got kicked out. And it was due to the fact of a lapse in judgment that I had, and it comes back to the honor code. I will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. So when I was in leadership at one point, I got complacent. We got overly confident, I would say. And I had a recruit or a candidate show up very, very, very lately. Like, he forgot drill was that weekend. He was speeding down to get there, and it was crunch time. Like, we were going to be late to first formation. He was going to be late. Instead of notifying cadre, I said, I think you're going to make it. And he did. We did. We did make it on time. He showed up. I had everybody help him get his room ready and prepared before drill. And we were running out the door and we were literally sprinting to first formation across the street. So I had a lapse in judgment, and he was like, hey, I don't have my dog tags. Like, I don't have a mission critical item. And I was like, oh shoot. Well, not even thinking about because we're sprinting across the street. We're running out of the hotel at the Billets. I always have a spare pair of everything, including my dog tags. So I just threw him a pair of my dog tags and said, well, there you go. Because we'd never had an inspection before. We'd never ever had an actual inspection of inspectable items. We just had all the items with us. Mm-hmm. Well, I forgot, I had a lapse in judgment that we had a formal inspection on the Sunday. And he had a lapse in judgment too. He was like, oh, I forgot I had these on, so I just threw them to him and said, just take these. And then we just made first formation because we were in a stressful environment. Again, a lapse in judgment. I should have called cadre and said, hey, one of my candidates is coming in very, very, very
late,
critical, right at crunch time, and he's missing items. But I wasn't even thinking about that because he was there. I didn't know that was an item he was missing, so we just showed up to first formation, and I had thrown in my extra dog tags, and we were there. And then eventually that Sunday, we had that inspection, which I forgot about, and one of our black hat sergeants was there, and he was inspecting all of us, and he lost his mind. He was very upset that he was doing this inspection and found that he was wearing my dog tags. So it was rough, and I got chewed out a whole lot, and they brought me up and on honor code violation. So that was not fun. And they were like, next drill, you will be brought up before board, and we could kick you out.
How you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
It was a rough thing to end the drill with. And then the next week, I had to go and stand before a board, 2 cadre members and 2 of my peers. And they had to just ultimately decide my fate of whether or not I was worthy to stay.
Well, not just you and the other.
Yes, me and the other candidate who
left his dog tags.
He forgot his dog tags and didn't have them for the inspection. So, anywho, I was brought before the board, and so was he, and we had to plea our case. And, I was like, I just said, we'll just throw ourselves at the mercy of the board and say, hey, it was a lapse in judgment. We won't let it happen again. And it was very seriously done. They would ask questions. They said, plea your case, and why you're here. And it was a trial, essentially.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
So, ultimately, obviously, I did not get kicked out, but it was not a fun time. And, the reaction of the sergeant, the black hat, that was not a fun time. I could tell he was really actually upset. It was not one of those things where it's like, no big deal. But then you leave and you go out of the OCS environment, and, you talk to people who are outside the Army, and you go, hey, I talked to my friends who are in the I did this, and they were like, really? They freaked out over that? It's like, because that was not, he was like, that was not a smart move for you to do, but I think they might be blowing it out of proportion to some degree. And that's regular Joes in the Army, you know. So like this is OCS. This is they hold officers to a high standard.
Yeah, you're held to a higher standard.
So I'm not making excuses for myself, but you know, I was saying, what are the odds of getting knocked out for something like this? And they go, well, I've never been to OCS, but he was like, you've never done anything bad before, have you? And I was like, no. And they were like, okay, well then I don't foresee them kicking you out, but you know, it's like, I don't know. I'm not an officer. I don't know how seriously they take all that. But, you know, and I asked several people and other folks who had been in the program, including Cadre, and they were like not super concerned about my odds. But then one of the Cadre came up after. She was like, I was kind of worried about you there for a little bit. And I was like, what? Like, you were the one that tried to put me at ease and said that, no, it's no big deal. You'll be fine. and then, like, he literally came back to the dining and he was like, I was worried about you. I was like, you said not to worry. And you're like, yeah, I was just saying that. And I was like, wow, thanks. So, yeah, don't get caught in a lapse of judgment like I did. Now, again, don't obviously go out of your way. And like I said, again, for me, like I said, this is quibbling right here, but this is my logic. It was a split-second decision. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was like, oh, yeah, here, I just threw them out. And like, it was one of those things. Like, it's not like I was like, oh, haha, they'll never catch us. I was just like, oh, well, you're down an item. I'll just throw you these and just wear them. Forgetting that we had the inspection on Sunday. Because you're in it. Again, you get there and things are happening. You're about to be late for first formation. And like, we're all sprinting to the final gym floor to get there. So take it seriously. You still can blow it in phase 2 because you will get lulled into a false sense of security after you get the nitty-gritty down. Like, I mean, after those first couple of drills, like I'd say by second or third drill, I mean, it was like going to work. We just got it. Yep. Now, obviously, they'd throw something at you that you weren't ready for, but I mean, like, we were there in the environment. We're just like, okay, we understand what this is now. Yeah.
So the only other thing to talk about before we wrap up is towards the end is then they start focusing on
troop leading procedures,
and op wards, and you actually go out into the field and they'll give you. They actually give you the real machine guns and stuff, and they'll be like, all right, here are blanks. You got the blank ammo. We got your M4s. We got the saws. We got the 240
Bravo.
And we're going to actually do sticks lanes. And you're like, now we're doing the fun stuff.
yeah. Once you get to sticks lanes and once you start doing op wards, it gets a lot better. It gets a lot more fun. But yeah, and you start kind of getting treated adult because that's when you're kind of in that senior phase. But again, we never got put into a senior phase. We never allowed to have our phones with us. So a lot of other, we talked to Kansas. Like, so here's an example. So we did a joint operation with Kansas before we went off to phase 3.
Yep.
And Kansas was kind of shocked at how our cadre treated us. Like, they're like, they're still kind of mean to you guys. Like, and we're like, what? Is your cadre not? And they're like, no. I was just like, oh. And then I was like, and they're like, we have our phones with us too. And I was like, what? You have your phones? Like, we've never been allowed to have our phones the entire time. Like, they never gave us any senior officer candidate status here. So, again, it was just kind of one of those things where even if you are in a different state, their program and their rules and their SOPs will be very different. Like, I mean, in each class's SOPs could be very different from yours.
So one of our candidates has a friend in Texas that was in their traditional program, which was only the 8-month course. And he said, yeah, he goes, they got messed up like every drill week. And he said his buddy was like afraid to go to drill in Texas. Whereas here, we didn't really have that. Sure, sometimes they could be a little rough and tough on us, but there was never a moment that anyone in our class was like, I don't want to go to drill.
Yeah, like we didn't want to go drill, but didn't want to go drill for the same reason nobody wants to go. It's like, I got better things to do on my weekend, you know? Not because we were worried that like the smokings was just going to destroy our bodies, but you know, Texas was kind of like that. Like they were dragging across concrete and stuff. So, I mean, every state has a very different program. They're on a very different ship. Like I said, with us, it's all mental. Like they are, and the cadre never let up as far as, you know, decorum and how rough the black hats were on us as far as giving us things to do. Again, like I said, when we were laying out there at in phase 2 doing the joint op with Kansas, like your cadre's like, they're mean. like really? You know, like you think they're mean? Like this is just kind of how they are. Like maybe they're mean, and we just again you're brainwashed by your environment, so you don't really see that they're actually. It's perception of being mean to them. It's like, oh no, that's just them. That's just who they are.
Yeah.
So it is different. It'll be different in every state, but ultimately phase 2 It's just the long slog. There's not a lot to worry about. You just got to do the work outside of drill. That's the most important thing you have to remember. Do the work outside of drill. Assign people jobs and roles outside of drill. Make sure you're meeting up and you're all on the same page. And like I said,
keep working out.
Keep working out. Don't stop working out. Stay fit. Stay fit. That's the most important thing. If you think you're rucking enough, you're not. And yeah, I think that's about it for phase 2. Just stay fit, do the work, and don't be a blue falcon.
Yeah, it's the slog for a reason. It's because it's a lot of trying to stay in shape for your marches and your running, and then a lot of tests. It's nothing but testing. The only time that it starts to become fun is at the very end, where you start doing your staff ride, dine in, and your sticks lanes.
Yep.
But before that, you're just like, here we come to drill to do some sort of PT and then go to class and then take a test all day.
Yeah.
And it gets old and it gets boring real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, that's what phase 2 is, and then phase 2, it ends with, again, troop leading procedures and op boards, and then you get to finish it all with phase 3. And we'll do a video on phase 3 not too long after this. So that's about all I've got for you. This is the Twins with the Grand Old Cast. Thanks for watching. We hope you guys find this information useful and it helps you in your endeavors in officer candidate school, or if you're not going to officer candidate school, you just wanted to see what it was about. Yeah. Thanks for checking it out. But that's all I've got for you. God bless you.
See you later, everybody.